Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. My name is Jeannelle and I like making teaching and lifestyle vlogs. For those who are new, I am a PE teacher and this is my husband. Want to introduce yourself?
My name is Brandon. I'm a middle school math teacher.
So we're both teachers and this video is going to be talking about teacher myths. Before we talk about teacher myths, I do want to give a disclaimer that everything we say in this video are just based on our own experiences, our own opinions, or what we've heard. So I'm going to read the teacher myths and Brandon is going to answer them, and I will put in my input as well after he's done. So the first teacher myth. Teachers are done working after students are dismissed.
I would say that's no for like 99.99% of teachers. And the only ones that would be yes for would be the ones that go in like an extra hour early for work, more than the other ones already go in. Students leave, that's when teachers have time to grade, have time to send email, actually check your email for the first time and probably since lunch or morning, depending on how busy you are or your prep. And then you can prep for the next day, make your copies, invite referrals for students that misbehaved that day, and that can take time because you got to, bring it to the office, talk to the principal maybe. But there's a lot of work you got to do after. But most teachers are going to be working more than just their contract hours, just about every teacher I know.
Yeah, I would agree. It is false. A lot of teachers, actually, a lot of classroom teachers, they stay until like 5 or even longer because they gotta prep everything. They have a lot, they have to communicate with parents, like you said, and grade and all that. It's a lot of work, so that is false.
Yeah, and for me, like my students leave at 3:35, but sometimes I'm gone at 4, but when I'm gone at 4, I still usually do work at home.
Here's another one. Teachers are morning people.
Depending on where you work, some schools start really early, or you have to be there early, or you might have meetings in the morning, so then you're like kind of forced to just start early. Like, listen, it just depends. Or like if you have to make copies and you forgot something, you might have to go in half an hour earlier, and so you kind of have to. And then when students show up, you kind of have to like appear like you're a morning person, whether you're not.
They probably think this way because they gotta be there in the morning before their kids even show up.
Yeah.
So.
No, I have students who will say, Mr. Rowe, how are you so like exciting and like enthusiastic right now? It's like 9 in the morning, and I'm just like.
So I would say this is true or false because it really depends on the person.
Yeah.
Teachers are underpaid.
Depending on your state, it's a lot worse. Like in Oregon and like Alaska and other like Washington as well. Those states each year. You get paid more. Not that that we're underpaid in here, it's that we don't get paid for the work beyond our contract hours. So I would say because we don't get paid overtime, like let's say you work 60 hours a week, you still only get paid 40 hours. If you work this extra 20 hours, it's like you have to do that, because if you don't do it, no one's going to do it. And then if you have no lessons for your students, then you'll get a bad review or something, and then you'll end up getting like let go or something over time. You could eventually lose your job if you don't work those extra hours. So I would say yes, actually, because you're required to work overtime because no one else will do it for you, but then you're never compensated for that work you do. So you only get paid those 40 hours a week. And people assume you get paid for 12 months of the year, but we actually, like for me, our contract, we get paid 10 months, but they just split it up over 12 months. So actually we get paid less each month than we actually should be getting, because our contract says we'll get paid in July and August, even though we don't work those months. Mm-hmm. So I would say yes, because we don't get paid overtime. When other jobs, like just like nursing or someone, or just like a general, like if you work like at a any kind of a mill or somewhere, like just welding, you get paid overtime. If you work 12 hours, you get paid 4 hours overtime. And teachers, just about every teacher I know works overtime but doesn't get paid overtime.
Teachers are underpaid because of that. And I know a lot of teachers go in during the weekends and they don't get paid, which is why we say that teachers are underpaid, because of like what he said.
Just about no one works the 40 hours, which is the problem, but the contract says it's for 40 hours of the work.
Yeah, I feel like we can talk about this like a whole video itself, because so many people have different opinions on this.
I think everyone should have the same opinion that if you work extra hours, you should be paid for those extra hours. Whether you say you're not underpaid or not, I think if you work 60 hours, you should be paid for those extra 20 hours you work. Maybe you just need to log them differently after your regular 40 hours of contract. Maybe you should just have to be able to log it like a timestamp instead. Mm-hmm. Like any hours you work extra, log that after. That would be a good way to start, because teachers should definitely be paid those extra hours.
Another teacher myth: most teachers are women.
I mean,
I would say that's true.
That actually seems kind of, at least based on, I think you can look the stats up.
Maybe, yeah, it depends
I think you can look the stats up, and in general, it's probably going to be true. just looking at my staff at my school, most of them, like there's probably 2/3 female.
Yeah, I think it really depends. Like I think with elementary, there's a lot more women in elementary compared to like secondary.
Even in the teaching programs, when you're looking at elementary, there was barely any males in the elementary program. And even my middle school, there's more female teachers than males. There's usually more.
All right, another teacher myth is teaching is easy.
No.
False.
I'd say for some school districts, it's easier. In some classes, like let's say you have 15 students, if you have like less than 20 students, it's probably going to be easy. When I say easy, I mean easier compared to the other ones. It's still going to be harder than a lot of the jobs. But like I did manual labor jobs where we literally moved wheelbarrows full of gravel 6 hours out of the day, and it's physically challenging. That's still easier than teaching. And it's physically more demanding, and you're still in charge of people doing their jobs. But when you're in charge of 35 students, and every hour it changes, and then you have and you randomly get emails that change your schedule throughout the day. You get other parents' email, you get admin emails, you have meetings. You're physically exhausted at the end of the day teaching, but you're also mentally exhausted. Whereas all my other physical jobs I did, you were after you're done at work at 5 o'clock, you go home. Whereas teaching, you take all that home with you whether you want to or not.
Yeah, for me, teaching is not easy because even if you have 20 students in your class, you have to adapt to adapt your lessons and make sure it's you engage each student because every student is different. So it can be very difficult, and if you have like 30 plus students, that managing a classroom can be really, really difficult. I think it's the most difficult. Yeah, teaching is not easy because you do have to adapt your lessons to the students' needs.
At the beginning of the year, you have to build relationships with the students, and you have to like maintain, and you also have to kind of like, you can't just come into work every day being grump, otherwise kids will not like your class, and then it makes even more challenging to be managing the classroom if students if students don't want to be there, it makes managing it even harder.
I love when parents actually know, even when they're not in education, I love when parents actually understand that teaching is not an easy job, and they always say like, I don't know how you do it, because it can be very stressful. I think it's one of the most stressful jobs because teachers do so many things with the short amount of time, and you have to be really, really flexible because again, it all depends on your students.
Yeah, and most of the time, it doesn't matter what class you're teaching, whether it's PE or health or math or science, there's always going to be kids that hate it. There's supposed to be kids that love it, and there's going to be like the majority of them will be kind of indifferent in the middle. But it's like you put 30 kids in one room and you tell them to do math problems that they don't want to do. It's kind of, it's not easy, but you have to find a way to make it fun for them. But also, you still have to learn it.
Okay, here's another myth. Anyone can be a teacher.
Depending on where you're at, anyone could be a substitute teacher. In Oregon, you have to have a bachelor's degree to be a substitute teacher. If you want to be a teacher, you have to go through a teacher program. And that could mean if you already graduated and you want to be, like 5 years after you graduate, after graduate college, you want to be a teacher, you might still have to go back and take classes on like child development. Actually, you pretty much always have to go back. Basically take classes on like how to be a teacher. That part, you don't really learn much. They talk about it, but they don't really teach you how to manage it until you actually become a student teacher. That's when you actually learn that.
I want to piggyback to that. So with anyone can be a teacher, I would say no, because some people don't even realize that they actually don't want to be a teacher when they're actually in it. Not anyone can be a nurse. Not anyone can be.
Oh, you mean like that? I thought you meant I thought you meant like anyone can be a teacher. Like you can just like walk and get a job. And I was saying no. You have to go through a.
You said that part, and I'm saying the other part.
You have to have a teaching license, which means you have to take certain courses, get certain it's really volunteer hours, because when you're a student teacher, you're volunteering. You could get paid to do that if it's like an emergency license, but generally you have to get it's like an engineer or a dentist or a nurse. You have to get like a license.
Yeah,
basically.
I know.
But then you do the rest.
And then I talked about the different way of like not anyone can be a police officer because they can't handle that certain stressful situation. I know I can't deal.
That'd be too, yeah.
For me, I could never be like an EMT or anything like that because I cannot handle.
Yeah, I think just being
I don't know. There's certain people that can be a teacher and certain people can do different careers. So I would say not anyone can be a teacher, but again, not anyone can be a specific.
Not everyone would want to be. Once you get there, like it's like not like you're not always under a lot of high stress situations, but like throughout the day, it's like you're like constantly under stress throughout the whole day. It's not like it's not like you're doing, you're clearly not doing like you're like a surgeon. Those people are like under real stress.
I couldn't
do that. Or like you're a police officer. Like that's to me that whole.
But I'm very
stressful.
Grateful for those people who
yeah,
can,
that's different kind of stress. But like teaching is not. It's stressful, but not. It's clearly not that level. But it's like you have small stresses throughout the day that just kind of piggyback onto each other. So like not everyone could be a teacher, just like not everyone could be. Or would want to be like surgeon would be hard to be in general, but not everyone could be a police officer. Like an EMT, like that would be so stressful for me. That would be really challenging. But same thing with teaching is like, it's just not for everyone.
Teachers are responsible for my child's education.
I would say yes and mostly no though, but like teachers are responsible or required to provide the information in the classroom and like literally teach it to the students and have them do projects and have them do assignments in the classroom. And but like the moment, like let's say something's due and the student doesn't do it, that's on the parent at that point. Like if the parent can't come complaining and say my student never did this, when the teacher, has been telling the student for months, the parents can see it online because most things post nowadays. Teachers post the deadlines online, resources are usually available online, and teachers give them the students the time in class. But you can't always catch, if you have 35 students again, you can't catch every single student having a conversation in the class at all times. And let's say you're helping someone with their project over here. In bell rings, and other students were goofing off, and you didn't even know because you didn't have time to get there. A lot of times, it's the parents have to resolve that. Really, teachers aren't going to be the ones that are going to be able to force the students to learn. Parents have to be able to, parents have to still parent. You still have to set deadlines and help your kid do your homework. You have to check your kid's homework not turned in. Again, I'm not going to remind 150 students individually before the assignment's due. Like if parents want to make sure they get it done, the parents should make sure the students get it done the night before or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like if we had a kid, like it is our responsibility to make sure that they have their task checked off. Like especially if due date is coming, we should be able to like hey, did you do your homework or anything like that? Like parents or teachers should be like a team. The teacher should be giving them the information, right? And then when they get home, if there's homework, then the parents should be able to check.
Yeah,
and be responsible for their child's education, like. Making sure that they are on track. Okay, let's do one more teacher myth. Good teachers have Pinterest-ready classrooms.
No, I think a lot of times teachers, they'll focus. It'd be nice to have a nice, pretty classroom, but that isn't going to make you a better teacher. You don't need to have your perfect, pretty classroom. I think it's more about you, and like if you're like actually engaged and want to be there, students will notice that more than anything. I think.
I get that, like a lot of classroom teachers, especially like elementary, they want to like set up their classroom, make it look pretty, Pinterest. But to me, I feel like it's how you present the lessons and how if you can engage and actually teach the students the curriculum or lesson that you are presenting. I think that is way more important than having like a pretty classroom. You can always work on your classroom like little at a time throughout the school year and then maybe keep it there for the next school year, but I think the most important is how you present your lessons and if you're able to actually teach those lessons to the students for their needs.
But like the students, they will notice the classroom, but like that's not the priority. Is again, like you said, is how you teach the lessons and like what you teach them.
That is all the teacher myths. So if you know any, please leave them down in the comments. Maybe you can tell if it's true or false. But again, everything we say in this video are just based on our own experiences or opinions or what we see or heard. So yeah, if there's any negative hate comments about teachers, I'm gonna assume that you're not a teacher, you're not in education.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and I will see you next time.